Part 12. Infinite Doomsday Start Draws Luodu Mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Aichiji. Chapter 111. Ruger was staring at the tree's luck when Minerva suddenly exclaimed again and walked to another cultivation room next to him. Google search reading. Look. Ruger hurried over and saw that there was another strange tree in this cultivation room that was exactly the same as the previous one. But compared to the strong and lively one before, this one not only looked a little withered, but also had a much shorter trunk. As for the whip-like vine branches, they lay limply on the ground, trembling and swaying weakly. It felt like a long worm that had its tendons and skin pulled out. There seemed to be traces of something gnawing on it. Wait, gnawing. Ruger, who discovered this, hurriedly turned his head back to look at the short trunk. Through the layers of leaves that had fallen together, he finally saw the situation inside. At the top of the trunk, which was blocked by the tree's broad leaves, there was a figure half lying and half lying. The figure was so lazy that she stayed in the middle of the tree trunk, chewing something with her eyes closed. Soon, after swallowing the food in her mouth, she actually bit down and directly bit off a large piece of the half-animal and half-plant structure on the tree trunk. After chewing it twice in her mouth, she spit out the tree meat again, muttered "not delicious," and turned around to bite off another piece of tree meat from another place. This time, she chewed it with satisfaction. As she gnawed the tree trunk, the withered and fallen strange tree trembled, looking both frightened and aggrieved. Compared with its fellows in the cultivation room, it was like another species. Perhaps, this is the difference between seeing a natural enemy and not seeing a natural enemy. Tia, Minerva called out the name of the girl who was chewing the tree meat with her eyes closed on the tree trunk. It was the bomb girl Tia Max. At this time, Old Noisy also flew out of the radio speaker and ran to Ruger and said, "The lock here is very strange. There is a chip, but I can't control it." "It's normal," Ruger nodded. "This kind of lock is specially designed to prevent others from making the lock ineffective by cutting off the power supply. So once the power is off, this kind of lock will always remain in a lock state and can only be opened after power is turned on. In other words, it can be opened now," Old Noisy exclaimed. "I'll try it." As he said, he drilled into the electronic lock. "Old Noisy?" asked the female warrior. Ruger nodded. "That guy didn't drill into the intercom just now, so Minerva couldn't see him." Ding. The door lock was quickly opened by Old Noisy, and he flew towards Tia, circling around and barking at his master. However, no matter how he barked, Tia seemed to have heard nothing at all and continued to gnaw on the strange tree at her own pace. As Ruger and Minerva entered the cultivation room one after another, the strange tree seemed to want to stretch out its branches and vines to attack the two. However, before the female warrior could raise her knife to chop it, the strange tree was bitten by Tia and fell down again. Seeing this, Minerva did not bother with the strange tree. She climbed to the top of the trunk in a few steps and began to join the ranks of awakening Tia. However, her call was still useless. "What should I do? Could it be that this strange tree has some poison? It has made her sleep all the time and only has instincts left." The female warrior jumped down and asked Ruger. "It's hard to say, let's do an experiment." As he said that, Ruger took out a box of barbecue with his backhand, which was still the kind that had just been roasted to a crispy yellow and crispy. With some seasonings, the smell spread around along the air. Anyone who smelled this fragrance would not be able to help but take a few more breaths. Ruger held the paper box with one hand and fanned it with the other hand, sending the smell towards Tia on the top of the tree trunk. "Good, so fragrant this is Luigi's barbecue. Tia is worthy of being Tia." She could tell the food when she smelled it in her sleep. She rolled on the tree trunk a little and jumped down from the tree trunk. Seeing this, Ruger put the food box on the ground. Tia slid down and lay on the ground like a caterpillar. She put her head near the food box and bit it. It smells so good." Just as Tia breathed a sigh of satisfaction, the strange tree was no longer threatening and came alive again. It seemed to feel the smell of meat. The branches and vines that had been lying on the ground pretending to be dead rushed towards the food box immediately, trying to snatch the food from its mouth. The female warrior was about to raise her knife when she saw this, but was stopped by Ruger. She was wondering when she saw Tia lying on the ground protecting the food box with one hand and holding several vines in her hand with the other hand in front of her. She bit it. Snap. 4 or 5 vines snapped. Looking at the strange tree again, it was shivering and curled up, not daring to do anything else. At the same time, Tia, whose mouth was filled with barbecue and vines at the same time, spit out most of the strange tasting things. But when she went to eat the barbecue again, she frowned again. It seemed that the strange taste of vines left in her mouth made the barbecue no longer fragrant. What the hell? Where's my barbecue? Tia was sweating profusely in a hurry, and her voice was crying. Even Minerva, as a bystander, wanted to hug her and comfort her when she saw her aggrieved look. But Ruger stopped her. Just when she was about to ask Ruger what he wanted to do, Tia was so angry that she gritted her teeth and stomped her feet, and actually opened her eyes. Huh? Huh? Where am I? Don't worry about that, rinse your mouth first. Ruger saw her wake up and hurriedly handed her a bottle of opened coffee. Brother Lou? You are here too? I just dreamed of your barbecue, it smells so good. As soon as she saw Ruger, Tia, who was just confused and nervous, relaxed instantly. It's not a dream, isn't that thing in your right hand? Ruger smiled. As soon as he finished speaking, Tia found the barbecue and immediately took another bite. However, after chewing it twice, she spit out the meat with a bitter face. Puh, 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 why is there a strange smell? It's so unpalatable, just like my nightmare just now. That's why I asked you to rinse your mouth first. Ruger hurriedly handed her the drink. Why let her rinse her mouth with coffee? First, this thing has a rich taste and can effectively relieve the taste buds attacked by strange tastes. Second, this thing can relieve Tia's spirit to some extent, although it seems unnecessary to see her like this. Third, this thing is free and does not cost points. This taste is right. After rinsing her mouth, Tia eagerly took a bite of the meat, chewed it carefully with lingering fear, and finally hummed with satisfaction. Luigi, Minerva, why are you here? Have all the enemies outside been cleared? She said while eating. It's not clear. In 1 or 2 sentences after the two looked at each other, Luigi said first. Generally speaking, a lot of them were killed, but there are more. Minerva added. What about you, why are you here? Luigi continued to ask. Well, didn't the old noisy guy tell you? After I destroyed the communication equipment here, I started looking for Sister Sarah everywhere. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 112. Tia's story is not complicated. After she destroyed the external communication center in the base, she began to look for Sarah. During this period, because Lao Zhao went to help Ruger hunt down the flying mobile phones that informed her, she wandered around for a while. Although she wasted some time, she also walked through a considerable part of the area, which was eliminated from the target by the method of elimination. Lao Zhao came back to replenish his energy due to his injury, and he was unable to help Tia. As a result, she walked to the laboratory and found that the doors of most areas were locked, so she simply used bombs to make holes in the walls to make new doors. As she walked, she accidentally entered the cultivation room of the strange tree. Then, she was eaten by the strange tree. She didn't have a clear memory of what happened afterwards, basically one dream after another. Although there were always some strange things in the dream, she didn't care much. What she cared about most was that she was hungry again, and the delicious food that Ruger put in her bag couldn't be taken out at all. So, she began to eat any living thing that appeared in the dream. Some were so unpalatable that I vomited after taking 2 bites. Some tasted pretty good, not as good as barbecue, but better than nothing. Hearing this, Ruger turned his head to look at the strange tree that was almost half eaten, and shook his head with some sympathy. Then, "You are not injured, right?" Ruger turned his head and asked Tia again. No. Tia sucked the meat residue on her fingers and thought about it carefully. "Well, once, it seemed that something stung me, and it was quite painful. I got angry, so I bit it too. But its meat was too unpalatable, and the shell was too hard and hurt my mouth, so I threw it away. That should be the only time I was injured." "Bugs? Stung you? Hurt your mouth?" Ruger was still a little confused, but he remembered something inexplicably and flipped out something and handed it to Tia. "Think about it, is this the smell of this thing? What is this? Spider? Beetle? Why does it only have 2 pairs of claws?" Tia was puzzled when she saw the blade spider that was torn into 2 halves and barely connected. But after she took the thing and tasted it, her eyes lit up. "Yes, it's this strange smell, fishy. Brother Lou, what is this?" Ruger didn't answer for the time being, but waved to the old noisy who had been lying on Tia's shoulder, signaling it to cooperate with him. Although Tia didn't understand what he was going to do, she still maintained her usual cooperative mentality and was going to help her give orders to the old noisy. However, before she opened her mouth, the old noisy rushed out by itself and searched according to Ruger's instructions. "Ah, old noisy, when did you listen to me so much?" Tia was surprised. Ruger just smiled at her, and before he could say anything, he heard the old noisy roaring over there. Soon, Ruger found a dead insect from the broken trunk of the strange tree, exactly the same as the blade spider before. "Look, this is the one that stung you in your dream." Ruger held up the thing and pointed to the clear tooth mark on its back. "You have good teeth. It bit such a hard metal shell. How can it not hurt to chew steel?" Tia took the thing and fiddled with it for a while. This time she was really curious. "What is this?" she shuddered suddenly. "Could it be that this is the body of the ghost?" "It is a ghost," Ruger nodded. "As for whether it is the body of the ghost, I think it is unlikely. This thing may be just one of the thousands of materials of the ghost. Well, maybe it is a special one, or even the most special one. It may be the object of study that they refer to the most." Huh, not only Tia, but even Minerva was surprised. Ruger looked at the old noisy one who had just emerged from the body of that thing. Seeing it give a gesture of affirmation, Ruger nodded to it, reached out to take the thing, tore open its shell, and gently took out a chip from it. "This is more like their main body. At least, it's their leadership." As he said that, Ruger signaled Minerva to take out the square box from before and turn on its speaker. "Okay, E52, now I'll give you one last chance. Explain it. Explain the relationship between you, the ghost, and this Radum." "Radum?" Tia and Minerva asked at the same time. How do you know this name?" "No, it's impossible, no sinner would know the real name of an angel." The ghost in the square box seemed to be startled by the name Ruger said. No, a mere sinner, how could he know this word? There must be a traitor. For a mere Radum, do you really think no one in the world knows it?" Ruger said with disdain. But he also knew that, except for himself, no one else in this plane would know the true identity of this thing. Radum, a half-plant, half-animal race with interstellar navigation capabilities and advanced biochemical technology. The main body is mainly parasitic, specializing in parasitizing high IQ races as its warriors. It has a strong ability in energy and matter conversion. In addition to the parasitic warriors as leaders, there are also biochemical beasts Radaman that serve as basic combat units. The appearance is also an insect-like war beast with 4 sharp claws. It has multiple forms such as sea, land, air, and space. There is even a form that pierces the soil and turns into a plant. That's right, the strange tree that Tia ate before was just such a radom tree. Ruger had felt that many things seemed familiar many times before, but some were too vague to remember. It was not until Tia said that she was stung by that thing in her sleep that Ruger suddenly remembered the alien parasitic race in the old animation. Tia's sting, now it seems, was not this radom's attempt to parasitize her. If it really follows the setting of that old animation, the Nephilim in this dimension are really the most ideal parasitic hosts for radom. It's a pity that they underestimated Tia's foodie attributes. They almost got eaten by Tia before they parasitized Tia. It can be said that those who eat people will always be eaten by people. At this point, Ruger was also full of emotion. It would be fine if the so-called world-destroying evil spirits of the Lost World were finally discovered to be the army of biochemical beasts led by the rebellious AI Noah in the heavy armor. Now look at it again, there are even radomans mixed in this group of biochemical beasts. This is true. There are only a few common apocalyptic elements: zombie mutation, hellfall, nuclear war wasteland, environmental upheaval, AI rebellion, giant beast return, alien invasion. Zombie virus, zombies have appeared countless times. Hellfall, isn't this the world-destroying disaster encountered by the Dark World? Nuclear war wasteland, although it didn't appear directly, but it's still unknown where the nuclear waste on the cyber brute dragon came from. Maybe the lost humans also fought a nuclear war with the ghost. Environmental upheaval, this doesn't seem to have a very obvious example, if you don't count the dark clouds covering the sun on the ground. AI rebellion. Noah. The return of the giant beast, the resurrected brute dragon, let's count it in front. Alien invasion. Radom also appeared. Counting this way, apart from the somewhat far-fetched nuclear war and the behemoth, there is only one environmental change that has not occurred. Ruger can only say that this infinite apocalypse is really infinite enough. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi Ji. Chapter 113. Shaking his head, Lugger continued to interrogate the mysterious core known simply as E52, while explaining radom to the two girls, Tia Minerva. Google search reading. This explanation may mean that there is no intention to continue to beat the E52. However, in order to make it easier for the two women to understand, he replaced the alien race radom with an alien race or even an alien demon. So, the reason why that strange tree ate me just now was because it wanted to parasitize a demon into me while I was dreaming, and then control me. You said it can also provide me with a suit of demonized armor. Then if I come out empty-handed now, am I losing money? The so-called demonized armor is the special armor provided by energy matter conversion technology, Taijiman given by radom. Although under normal circumstances, the monster transformed by radoman can only provide an unarmed body without the system's famous antimatter cannon. However, it would be nice to have an extra full-body armor that can be converted from crystal energy at any time. At least Lugger was quite envious of such a suit of armor. How could you know so clearly? Before Tia's half-sentiment and half-question was answered, the E52 in the square box over there finally broke through the defense again and shouted in disbelief. So, why do you have to worry about it anymore? Just tell me what you know and save me the trouble. You will also suffer less, okay, Lugger said with a smile. It's just that his smile looks so sinister and sinister in the eyes of others. Tia didn't react at all, and Minerva accidentally took 2 steps back. It's a pity that E52, who should have seen him like this the most, didn't turn on the detection module due to insufficient power supply. His performance was performed to a blind man. No, even if you are a sinner, No, you are a devil, you used some evil magic to get that information, I will not tell you any more, so just give up. The E-52 was quiet for a moment, and finally roared like this. Well, forget it, don't say I didn't give you a chance. Luge was not annoyed at all, nodded and said. When you get to your underworld or hell, don't blame me for letting you die miserably. After saying that, he didn't care about the reaction from the other side. He stretched out his hand and gestured to Lao Nao Noo, who returned to Taya's shoulder, as if he was watching a good show. Lao Nao Ko became more obedient now, and immediately jumped up and rushed into the square box upon seeing the gesture. Then, I heard the wail of E-52 coming from the speaker connected to the square box. What the hell is this? Ah, why can it bite my soul? Hey, it hurts. Enough, I say. Please, make it stop, I will say anything. However, Lugger just waved his hand and said with a smile, do you think I still need you to tell me? When our Lion King Simba eats you all, I will ask you for the memory in your soul. Don't forget, I gave you a chance, but you didn't use it. Now, go in peace. No, the voice in the square box was as miserable as it could be. However, judging from the volume, it is still a long way from being completely eaten by Lao Nao Noisy. After all, no matter what he says, he is still the commander-in-chief of a cunning party. In human terms, this person has a high IQ and rich experience. In electronic terms, the storage format of this thing is advanced, and the storage capacity is definitely not low. Then just wait with peace of mind. Taking advantage of this period of time, Minerva also supplemented Tia's knowledge during this period. Mainly the ones Ruger didn't talk about. Tia continued to eat while holding the plate while listening, and she did not hesitate to exclaim when she heard something exciting. It was like listening to a book in a tea garden. However, when she heard Minerva say that there was a complete strange tree in the cultivation room next door, her expression immediately changed. Became extremely dignified. Minerva was a little confused at first, but after thinking about Ruger's previous explanation, she quickly came to her senses. Sarah, X2. They both shouted at the same time. Yes, wasn't it possible that the rogue field commander Blue Draven Sarah, who had been missing for so long, was eaten by the Radom tree? The three of them reached a consensus instantly and walked aside together. But when I opened the door, I discovered that the previous locksmith was always nagging and catching bugs in the square box. Moreover, the Naradomu tree itself is also aggressive. If you don't fight it, I don't know how to go over and check to see if Sarah is inside. But if you beat it, if you kill it and kill Sarah at the same time, who does it belong to? Don't look at me. You all know me. If I strike with these two swords, everything will be in half, Minerva said. I'm even worse. You all know me. If I shoot down, there will be a hole in this training room, Ruger said. Nana, you all know me too. If I explode with flames and throw it out, everything here will be burned down, Taya also said. The three of them looked at each other, and finally Lugger and Minerva looked at Tia at the same time. Why are you looking at me like this? Didn't I tell you that my flame blast is too powerful and will burn everything down? Tia shrank her neck. No, you don't need to set off flame explosions, you just need to. Lugger said. Bite it, eat it to the point of trembling with fear, eat it to the point of explosion, Minerva said. In short, if we eat it so that it doesn't dare to hinder us, it will be considered a success. Is this so? Taya was somewhat hesitant. But I'm full, not hungry anymore. You don't have to eat, just bite it, Minerva said. Besides, who said you can't eat when you're full and not hungry? But, it doesn't taste good either, it's far worse than Luigi's barbecue, Taya said, a little aggrieved. Alas, Minerva sighed and turned to look at Ruger. How about we think of another way? Ruger's eyes rolled. Taya, is the barbecue delicious? It's delicious, Taya nodded. Then, is it delicious in its original flavor, or with cumin, that brown powder seasoning? Both are delicious. Tia thought about it, swallowing her saliva and said, but the one with cumin is a little bit more delicious. Is that so? Ruger nodded. Luigi also has a sweet and delicious barbecued pork. Gudong, a sound of saliva fell into his stomach. There is also a hanging oven roast duck, the skin is fragrant and crispy, and the meat is tender and juicy inside. Gulp, another sound. There is also another one. Brother Lu, stop talking, my stomach is going to growl again. Tia hurriedly stopped him. I know, I'll deal with that thing, and after the matter is done, I will eat all the meat. No problem. Ruger patted his chest. Eat until you are full, eat until you are full, eat until you can't eat anymore. No, cough cough, no, cough cough, no problem. Ruger coughed twice before finishing the whole sentence. It's not that he failed at the critical moment, his body was too weak to hold on, or his stinginess recurred. The main thing is that with Tia's appetite, eating until you are full is already very meat-consuming. If you want to eat until you are full and can't eat anymore, I'm afraid that even if you stack a few pigs and a dozen ducks together, it may not be enough. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi. Chapter 114. Okay, I'm going to deal with that strange tree now. Tia looked generous and willing to sacrifice herself. But as soon as she finished speaking, she turned back and said, that, the door is still locked. When Minerva heard this, she immediately said, what's the problem? Just get out of the way first. After saying that, she slashed hard with two knives, trying to split the tempered glass door directly. However, what she didn't expect was that the door here was actually harder than the regional door, and it only opened a few cracks with two cuts. But seeing Tia's searching eyes, Minerva didn't want to admit that she had made a mistake in judgment. She simply took out the terminal block with a big wave of her hand, as if it was part of her complete plan before, and shouted, who should be saved first? After she finished shouting, she took out a remote-controlled bomb and stuffed it outside the slit she had made. She pulled the two of them further away from each other and yelled again, save your mother. Boom. The glass door was finally blown open by a bomb. In fact, with the quality of that door, the female warrior can hit it with all her strength 2 or 3 times without the need for explosives at all. However, in order to show that she had a plan, Minerva's performance could not be helped. How's it going? Let's go. Minerva pretended to smile casually, but she still quickly found a chance to wipe her sweat away from her head. Ruger's deceptive trick to deceive Minerva was okay, but in the eyes of Senior Bomb Master Tia, it was really full of flaws. It was just those 2 incantations in the alien language that were full of flair. Although Xiaodia did not know Chinese, she still felt strangely familiar under the influence of the shared memory of Lao Naokeo, and felt that there was something wrong. As for the explosion of the bomb itself, Tia is very proficient in both the process and the diffuse smoke. She knows that this is explosive. What's more, she even saw the whole process of Lugger sneaking around to get the detonator to detonate it. She rolled her eyes at Ruger angrily and said, are you fooling Minerva? Tia didn't tell him off. She shook her head and walked towards the broken glass door. Oh, wait, take this first. This is what Ruger is going to give you. Minerva grabbed Tia and handed over the terminal block in her hand. That thing is easy to use, but it's not suitable for me. I still like to chop with a knife directly. Bomb, that's the real name of this thing, right? It's better for you to use it. After saying that, Minerva stepped back and glanced at Lugger intentionally or unintentionally, but said nothing. At that moment, all the hairs on Lugger's body stood on end. Good guy, Minerva actually knew what was going on all along? Or is it that she just glanced at herself subconsciously and had no other meaning? After glancing at the 2 people behind her, Tia put away the terminal block and finally walked into the training room. Even before she came in, she discovered that the glass door of the cultivation room was damaged and the strange tree was already there, and she couldn't wait to attack the outside. However, Tia easily dodged them all. Now that he saw her walking in on her own initiative, the strange tree, which could only use the vines as a spear before, was immediately overjoyed and attacked excitedly. But after a while, ouch ouch! A certain strange tree screamed in pain. But this is just the beginning. Tia just bit off all the vines, now she is aiming at the main trunk of the strange tree. In short, with a hoarse wailing sound, this strange tree also turned into the withered and fallen appearance next door. The only difference may be that the core of this strain is still there. The upper part of this strange tree looks like an immature corn cob. Underneath the outer leaves is the real core of corn kernels. However, the core of this strange tree is a blister with an angular shape, rather like an elongated ruby crystal. Yes, anyone who sees the ruby-like thing behind the thick leaves will subconsciously think it is a crystal. But Tia went over and took a picture, and found that the flat outer wall that looked like a crystal was actually just a film wrapping the liquid inside. And in the liquid, a figure with arms and knees was vaguely revealed. Sister Sarah. Tia immediately recognized the person. It was Sarah the Blood Crow that the three of them had been searching for. After confirming the identity of the man, Tia directly drew out her fist blade and stabbed it at the edge of the crystal-like blister. Gilug gilug. After the outer membrane was punctured, the liquid inside did not spray out instantly. Instead, it gurgled out like a non-Newtonian fluid. It wasn't until the water level inside dropped to the point that Sarah, who was once hanging in the air, fell onto the tree trunk, did the liquid behind gradually change into a normal fluid form and flow out. It seems that the lower half of this non-Newtonian fluid is what keeps Sarah suspended in the air and even makes this thing crystal-like. Soon, Tia took out the Blood Crow and placed him on the floor of the corridor. She seems to have fallen into some kind of coma like Tia before Minerva checked. Sister Sarah, wake up! Tia began to try to wake her up. No, don't be anxious. Luge quickly stopped Tia. I think we'd better be prepared with both hands. What? Tia was confused. I mean, what if she has been successfully parasitized by the evil spirit? If she wakes up, she will become our enemy. Lugger said, taking out a set of strong ropes. Let's add insurance. Tia and Minerva had some ideas about his method, but they had to admit that his doubts were reasonable. In the end, they had to take the rope and tie up Sarah. What should we do now? How should we wake her up? Minerva tied the last knot and turned around to ask. How about you check her first to see if there are any scars from being parasitized? Ruger thought for a while. The parasite in the fluorescent zombie crawled out of its mouth before. I guess when they parasitize, they also enter the human body from the mouth. Their parasitism must control the host's brain, so there will probably be scars in the area from the mouth to the brain. Okay, don't say it, it's disgusting. While the two women were giving Sarah a physical examination, the old noisy man who was catching insects in the square box over there also looked drunk and flew out from there, swaying left and right. Looking like you have a good harvest, Ruger asked tentatively. Yeah, old noisy burped immediately, but there are a lot of things I didn't get. What's going on? Ruger asked hurriedly. Oh, old noisy burped again, many parts of its memory are locked. I tried to crack it, but in the end, even I was confused. It's just like drinking alcohol. Yes, most of that guy's memory is food to me, but those locked parts are like alcohol. I can get that part of its memory by eating food, but as for the alcohol part, if I force myself to drink it, I will get drunk and forget that part of the memory. So, I hurried out. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi Ji. Chapter 115. Lu Ji and others did not expect that Lao Nao Nao's world was so mysterious. It's easy to understand that you can obtain that guy's memory by directly eating other conscious bodies. In fact, it was Lugger who first made this guess and then asked Lao Now Noise to conduct experiments before finally confirming this. But no one expected that when it eats the encrypted memories of other consciousnesses, it will have this drunken phenomenon. However, after thinking about it for a while, Ruger came to the conclusion that this was more like a self-protection mechanism of Lao Now himself. Just imagine who would tamper with the memory of the charming bug E52 and encrypt part of the memory inside. The most likely one is probably the Prophet Noah mentioned by E52. According to the currently known information, the Prophet Noah was the onboard AI of a spaceship with an unknown purpose. In other words, it should be personalized artificial intelligence in a supercomputer. With its capabilities, if the memory modules of other ACE are encrypted, it is likely not only to encrypt them, but also to use offensive methods, such as electronic viruses and the like. If anyone else tries to crack the encryption on this memory, they will be infected by the virus and become paralyzed. It's like applying poison or germs to the lock of a safe. If the person who opens the lock is not careful, he will be poisoned and die. As for Lao Naokeo, out of some instinct, or because its creator's methods were more sophisticated, in short, he weakened the toxicity of this electronic virus. As we all know, alcohol itself is a poison, and drunkenness is a reaction to poisoning. Lao Now Noisy eats the memories encrypted by the electronic virus, just like drinking alcohol and grains soaked in it. Of course, this is just Ruger's guess, but judging from actual performance, his guess is very consistent with the facts. Okay, you can talk about the unencrypted memories first, Lugger said to him. Well. Oh, by the way, there is a human victim in the Radham tree in the next room. Old Noise continued to burp whine. Looking at the description in its memory, it looks very much like Rog Blood Crow. We already know this. Tia pointed to Sarah beside her. You can say something useful. Yes, Master. Lao Naokeo stretched out his left paw and made a drunkard salute. Well, this guy himself has really been around for at least 50 years. Well, it also has some memories of the old master coming here 20 years ago. Unfortunately, there is no first-hand information. It is all reported by its subordinates. Well, 50 years ago, before the world fragments fell, it had already established a secret base here to cultivate that kind of bugs. During this period, it also fought several battles with the regular army of the Lost. It won first and then lost. Just when it was almost killed by the Lost One, the world fragments suddenly fell down. Most of the Lost troops seemed to have died directly in the collision, while the rest fell into chaos and were defeated one by taking advantage of the opportunity. However, since then, it has also cut off contact with its superiors and is just passively producing more ghosts. During this period, it also found a lot of good things in the process of widening the underground cave. That arsenal of the Lost, that ancient skeleton, and that unique energy device. But in general, because it lost contact with its superiors, most of its energy during this period was spent on reproducing the charm. I even made myself a body that can leave the main base for a short period of time to inspect the situation. But, about a few weeks ago, things changed. Some clues about its superiors were found in a group of human equipment seized by the Phantom Patrol. It learned that it was not the only one who survived the falling fragments of the world. Since then, it has changed its previous strategy of only breeding but not expanding, and started actively digging holes into the ground. Actually, decades ago, it discovered that monster corpses could provide more energy to Chuime. Since then, they have lured monsters at the entrance of the cave into the mysterious cave from time to time, and then used them as nutrients for the creep carpet. After the passage to the ground was dug, more monsters fell into the Suimei cave, and the number of Suimei also increased exponentially. After retelling this, Lao Naokeo's face suddenly became solemn. What's wrong? Taya asked hurriedly. Master, this guy has arranged a successor for himself. Once it loses contact with other charlatans to a certain extent, its successor will automatically gain command of the corresponding charlatan base. Really, then who is its successor? What abilities does it have? Taya asked again. Which one are you asking about? Laoneokeo said with a bitter face. Huh? There is more than one successor? Why is this guy so afraid of being ignored? Lugger also became curious. Total, there are 12 in total. Laoneokeo swallowed his saliva. What? So many? Could it be that there is more than one such mysterious dungeon? Luge asked again. No, it should be just this one, but there are many complicated mazes around this one. Most of those successors are in their respective territories. This place is only used as a breeding ground. According to Laoneokeo's retelling, the E-52 had long discovered that the divine punishment, falling fragments of the dark world, would block wireless signals. Therefore, although it has never been able to get in touch with other ghosts, it has continued to develop its power. Since it had too many subordinates, it could not coordinate them by itself, so it selected middle-level leaders from the ghosts. But some problems occurred during this period. It is a bit serious to say that the subordinates overthrow the superiors, but it is better to say that it is similar to the battle for the throne of the 9 dragons. In the end, all the ghost leaders with secondary command power were sent into the maze by it. The area that Ruger and his party had walked through was exactly the middle area of the 3 leaders. This is not surprising, because the maze area connected to a monster cave is often the most competitive place. This huge underground city is the area directly under the jurisdiction of E-52. In addition, in order to prevent those leaders from using various means to obtain more abilities, E-52 did not hesitate to move its core laboratory completely into the arsenal that was dug later, and set it as a holy place. The so-called holy place, without the order of E-52, other ghosts are not allowed to enter. Only the guards of the holy place can enter here. Those are the half-orc soldiers. Who would have thought that the guards of the holy place would not have as strong fighting will as the ordinary ghosts on the periphery? In short, if E-52 is still alive, other ghosts will not enter here without receiving orders. This is great news for the 3. However, there are only a dozen hours left before the time limit set by E-52 to lose contact. Under normal circumstances, E-52 contacts other surrounding areas at least once a day, with no upper limit. Therefore, it is set that if no news is received from it within 24 hours, other commanders will come to the Holy Land to inherit its legacy. And the last time it contacted the outside world was 6 or 7 hours ago. It was also the time when Sarah was sent here. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 116. Minerva, so we still have a dozen hours, that's enough. Taya, yes, that's right. At worst, we will still use artillery to kill them. Brother Lu, your little chariot is outside, right? Lugger, this is broken. Tia, it's broken? How could it be broken? Minerva, remember the big steel monster I said? It was damaged by that thing. Tia, what should we do? We use small grenades to blast a way out. Ruger, let's not talk about that first. How is Sarah? I mean, are there any wounds on her body? Tia, I've checked everything, but it's not there. But I still can't wake up. Tia, by the way, I saw there were other tanks when I came here. How about we get one? Ruger, where? Taya, let's go, I'll take you there. Lugger, wait a minute. Simba, what about that strange tree? Do you have that part of your memory? Laoneokeo, there are some, not many. Most of the information about it has been blocked. It seems that this strange tree is a very important resource for their species. The reason it was able to have these two strains seems to be because it performed well during the initial battle against the army of the Lost. Other than that, it seems like most of the nearby charismatic commanders didn't get it. Minerva, wait, isn't it? Its body is also the blade spider. There are also blade spiders in this strange tree. How come there are only two of them? Where did it come from? Laoneokeo, this strange tree can be used repeatedly. And the strange tree and the blade spider are two different things. They work best together when used together. But they can also be used separately. That's how the zombie it controls came about. The blade spider is just a simple control tool. The strange tree can provide the controlled person with a special set of weapons. Minerva, special weapons. Tia, do you have them? Tia shook her head, I don't feel it. After hearing this, Laoneokeo jumped out of the walkie-talkie, ran back to Tia and circled around, and finally said something into Tia's ear. What? Tia immediately took off her leather armor and rolled up her sleeves after hearing its words. On the inner side of her right forearm, there was a crystal-like tattoo that was shining with a faint fluorescent light. What the hell is this? Laoneokeo leaned over and whispered again, making Tia open her mouth wide and nod. Finally, she reached out with her left hand to hold down the fluorescent light, closed her eyes for a moment, and then quickly opened her eyes. At the same time, the fluorescent light suddenly grew in size and enveloped her entire body. It was like a flash bomb explosion. After it ended, Tia at the center of the flash was wrapped in a strange set of armor. This is it. Minerva couldn't help but move closer to her to check. This thing doesn't seem heavy, but it's so strong. Isn't this the most ideal armor material? Taijiman's system. Ruger was also greatly shocked. Unexpectedly, I didn't expect that the famous Taijiman system, before I could get a time traveler, was actually obtained by Tia. Oh wait, the Taijiman system seems to be placed on the side of positive characters, making it easy for them to die and keep their registered permanent residence. The male protagonist of the original animation really killed his whole family, and most of them were killed by himself. Could it be? Luge looked at Tia and thought about her pitiful experience. Not only her parents died early, but the master who raised her also passed away. He thought to himself, could this be Xiang Xing? Only when a positive person with a household registration dies can one obtain the Taijiman system. Luge then thought about his parents in his own world who, although not rich, had no worries about food and clothing. He quickly shook his head and said to himself that he didn't want the Taijiman system. However, while the two women were playing with Tia's unarmed Taijiman armor, Luger ran into the cultivation room and recovered the two half-dead strange trees into the logistics space. He was no longer interested in directly using the strange tree to obtain Taijiman. But if we use them as a reference and find a way to analyze the material, it will be used in the production of weapons such as tanks and even artillery. Luger was not only interested in things like this, but also very interested. What's even more interesting is that when Ruger recovered two strange trees, they were directly sealed into glass jars and placed in the logistics space bunker. The system prompts that because they are plant-like living creatures, they cannot be used as raw materials. But they are not real living creatures, and most of them are in the form of plants, so they are recycled as special potted plants. The host successfully recovered the special biochemical modulation platform creature Radom tree, and unlocked the relevant permissions of the biochemical modulation platform. The host can unlock the second set of additional facilities in the logistics space. The unlockable directory is as follows. Airport, Level 1 Area 100m×100m, can park helicopters, small fixed-wing aircraft, etc., has its own aircraft modification and maintenance equipment, no runway. Dock, Level 1 Area 100m×100m, can park small ships and submarines, has its own navigation equipment for modification and repair, and needs to be connected to the water when connecting with the outside world. Facility, Level 1 a secret combat command center on the underground floor, providing a full set of military main battle tank level armed vehicle transformation equipment. Biochemical modulation platform, Level 1 can conduct basic biochemical modulation research. The system popped up a long directory, and Ruger in the back just glanced at it and stopped paying attention. He really didn't expect that the so-called additional facility function would be unlocked at this time. His logistics space originally had only one office, which was the core. The bunker facilities he often used now were actually the first set of co-pilot facility functions that came with his mechanic reward. He always thought that perhaps he needed to complete some authority tasks, or accumulate points to 5 digits, before the next set of unlocking would be opened. Unexpectedly, it was unlocked after collecting 2 strange trees. However, by browsing the information, he quickly understood that it seemed that the 2 strange trees he recovered had the ability of biochemical modulation platform, so it triggered the unlocking. Then correspondingly, if he got a helicopter or even a fighter, he should be able to unlock the airport. If he got a ship submarine, the dock should be unlocked in the same way. But he obviously had a tank, why couldn't he unlock the facility called facilities? Could it be that his small tank was not of high enough grade? It seems that at present, this is the only reasonable explanation. Shaking his head, Luger put these aside for the time being and came to Tia to look at her Iron Man armor. Not to mention, the angular armor with red and mist roses on Tia is indeed heroic and beautiful. This armor gives people a similar feeling to most Iron Man armors, and there are always some details that remind people of the chitin of beetles. But it is not a simple insectization. Even if the sharp edges are part of the armor, it seems that they can be used as weapons at any time. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-Chi-Ji. Chapter 117. Compared to the armor in the original animation, Tia's Iron Man armor is slightly thin. It is similar to the compromise between the armor of the original protagonist's sister and the protagonist himself, and then de-armored. This is just like the limited information provided by Lao Guozhao. The energy matter conversion armor provided by these 2 radom trees is a basic model without armor. But according to the plan of the president of the Ghost Bug, E52, it seems that after the basic model is successfully colonized, it has a way to provide additional armor. However, this part of the memory is obviously blocked. So, Luger's second additional function facility doesn't need to consider anything else, and directly turns on the biochemical modulation platform. Soon, a biological laboratory very similar to this ghost facility appeared in the logistics space. It and the bunker facility are connected to the same elevator leading to the office area. If you want to move between 3 different facilities, you must go through that elevator. It seems that each set of additional facilities will be a new floor in this elevator. But in this situation, Luger can't go in and take a look himself, and can only get a general understanding through the system panel. The result is that I don't understand. He is a mechanic, at best an armorer who has experience in many mechanical fields, but he is not a biologist or chemist. He could barely recognize half of the equipment in the biological laboratory. Fortunately, with only 50% utilization, he still saw the dawn of the technology he wanted most. That is the energy matter conversion technology of the Iron Man armor. For example, how to use a similar method to make a set of Iron Man armor, or to equip Tia's Iron Man armor with some weapons. The specific situation still needs to be tested, but Ruger is at least confident that he can help Tia integrate the 40x53mm high-speed grenade launcher into the armor. Since even a large-sized thing like a high-speed grenade launcher can be integrated, other weapons can certainly be integrated. After all, the 40x53mm high-speed grenade has a small charge and a slow ammunition speed. Especially now that Ruger and others have fought against the enemy's heavy armored forces, the power of this weapon is insufficient. Ruger prefers to directly integrate a 30mm bore automatic cannon or a caliber backpack mortar for Tia. However, The main function of the former is not the explosion that Tia likes most, but high kinetic energy piercing, while the latter has the disadvantages of difficult aiming and slow bullet speed. In this situation where each has its own advantages and disadvantages, Ruger can only arrange the general plan into the laboratory main control computer first, and the specific experiments and even weapon production will have to wait and see. As soon as he closed the system panel, he heard Tia whispered contact weapon over there. Interestingly, it was still the native language of the Dark World. As soon as she finished speaking, the armor on her body immediately changed from solid to semi-fluid, and then it flowed back into the crystal-like tattoo on her right forearm like the tide receding. However, just like in the original animation, the original training suit under her armor had disappeared. Even the tool belt on her waist, which included the fist sword wrist blade, disappeared completely. The two fist swords lost their scabbards and belts and fell directly to the floor. Also dropped were some alchemical potion bottles and throwing weapons such as throwing knives. The only thing intact was her small shoulder bag with the function of a meta bag. Ah! Tia was still a little confused, but Minerva shouted and blocked her way, blushing and saying to Ruger, "Turn your head away." Ruger had already covered his nose with both hands, forcing the nosebleed not to flow out. At the same time, he couldn't help but sigh, feeling that Tia really wasn't so gluttonous for nothing. That's true, the nutrients absorbed were not wasted. On the one hand, they turned into strong, well-proportioned, and explosive muscles, and on the other hand, they turned into energy tissues and stored in the most suitable place. It's perfect, too perfect. Seeing Minerva excitedly asking him to turn around, Ruger turned around honestly, although he felt a little regretful. After thinking for a while, he said in a hoarse voice, "It seems that the energy-matter conversion method of Taijiaman is still flawed. I guess it should have used Tia's clothes as part of the raw materials. But Tia's dimensional bag is fine, and even the bag strap is not damaged. This may be related to the fact that the Taijiaman system cannot analyze the technology of the dimensional bag. Well, it seems that Tia's fist sword is fine too. If I'm not mistaken, Tia's fist sword is a magic weapon made of monster magic stone, right? Taijiaman should not be able to analyze that thing either. This point can be used for reference. For example, make Tia underwear that is not afraid of being eaten by Taijiaman." "What? Just underwear?" Minerva was still listening carefully before, and she immediately became dissatisfied when she got here. "You guy, don't you know how to make her a complete set of clothes? Don't think I don't know what you think, pervert." That, it's okay, anyway, Luigi is not an outsider." Tia raised her hand weakly. "No," Minerva interrupted immediately, "how can we let him get away with it so easily?" Ruger coughed a few times to ease the increasingly awkward atmosphere. "That's right, I'm afraid that if the Iron Man system doesn't absorb enough clothing materials, the armor it makes won't be strong enough. So Tia can't just wear clothes that won't be used by it. It's okay to make a set of magic clothes, but she has to put on another set of clothes outside. Isn't this not suitable for her agile and nimble fighting style?" "Yeah, what Luigi said makes sense." Tia nodded and agreed immediately. "Oh, silly sister, I'm helping you." Minerva couldn't help but sighed and said helplessly, "I don't care, you guys can do whatever you want." Then she turned and walked away. "Hee, Luigi, come on, help me see how to make clothes." As she said that, Tia ran to Luigi and took off the cloak that Minerva had put on her body before. Puff. Someone's nose bleeds directly. A few hours later, Luigi, who had blocked his nostrils with a diving nose clip and layers of paper towels, finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Tia withdrawing the Iron Man armor again. This is his fourth experiment. During this period, he tried bikinis, swimsuits, underwear, and gym clothes. It wasn't his LSP that was acting up. It was Tia who asked Old Noisy to draw the underwear she wanted on Ruger's phone. As for how she knew so many strange clothes, it was thanks to old Noisy, who had read all the memory of someone's phone and tablet. Who told it to even see the learning materials in the hidden folder. What Ruger didn't expect was that it actually shared that part of the content with Tia. What he didn't expect was that Tia would actually make that kind of request. Well, it's still his LSP that's to blame. During the period, he even turned around to ask Minerva for help, asking her to save him from this embarrassing position. As a result, she snorted coldly and turned away, pretending not to see it. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 118. Ruger never thought that he would be teased in the opposite way one day. He once thought that with his many years of experience as an LSP, he would not be teased at all, and would just enjoy it like a veteran in the flower field. Well, he really didn't dislike it. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. But, he was really shy. That feeling was as if he had returned to his youthful middle school days, when he held the hand of his female deskmate for the first time. He really couldn't figure it out. As an LSP who had watched countless movies and had done everything he should do with his ex-girlfriend, why was he still so green? Could it be because of the joy and pride in Tia's eyes every time she teased him successfully, which made him subconsciously cooperate with her performance? But why didn't he feel that this was a performance at all? That kind of heart-pounding, shy feeling, but it was real. Even though he made a sports bra and leggings for Tia in the fourth experiment, which is a common outfit in the gym, he still blushed and his heartbeat accelerated when he saw it. Tia was originally indifferent to such an outfit, but seeing that Ruger was still blushing like a young eagle, she immediately agreed with a smile. So far, the problem of Tia's Iron Man armor lining has been initially solved. Minerva wanted to stop it several times at first, but the more she looked, the more she felt that the two people were in a wrong state. Later, after discovering that it was Tia who was unilaterally teasing Ruger, she was too lazy to care about the two people and could only find a place to hide and sulk. A bystander knows clearly, she even knows why Ruger was teased by Tia better than himself. That's what is called being sincere. After discovering this, what else can she do? She can only turn a blind eye and not be annoyed, and not watch the flirting scene full of the stench of love between these two guys. She also has enough reasons to hide, that is, to take care of Sarah who is still sleeping. But some things can't be avoided by physically moving away. Especially the sour smell. After the two people solved the problem of the lining clothes, they immediately turned to the problem of additional weapons. At first, it was still serious, but it didn't take long for the atmosphere to change. Lu, let's try the rapid grenade launcher first. Tia, okay. Lu, well, the power is still a little bit lacking, how about trying the machine gun, automatic cannon? Okay. Lu, but this thing mainly uses armor-piercing shells, do you think it's okay? Okay. Lu, or, just use the large caliber cannon directly, try the mortar first. All good. Lu, don't say everything is good, of course the weapon you use must be what you like. As long as it's made by Brother Lu, any weapon is good. Pull yourself back, Minerva couldn't bear it anymore, everything is good, just install all those on her. Well, okay. Seeing the two of them turn around and get close again, Minerva was so angry that she couldn't breathe. Why, are you envious? If you like it, just fight for it yourself. A slightly hoarse and magnetic voice came from behind Minerva, frightening her so much that she immediately swallowed her breath and turned her head to look. Sarah. Are you awake? The speaker was the blood crow Sarah, who had been sleeping all the time. Minerva turned her head quickly after hearing the words, but what came into her eyes was not the blood crow in the traditional brown rogue leather armor, but a Iron Man in purple and black armor. You are also colonized. What, Sister Sarah is awake? Tia hurried over after hearing the voice, and immediately saw the Iron Man Sarah, who was 60% similar to her, but with purple and black as the main colors. "Wow, Sister Sarah, your armor is so handsome." "Really?" the magnetic voice in the armor over there smiled, but stretched out his right hand and patted the left hand. Then, the armor surged back to the crystal tattoo like a receding tide again. Oh. This time, Minerva didn't do anything, but little Tia immediately protected the leader of the rogue. Then, she saw Ruger tilting his head and looking behind him with great interest, and she couldn't help but pouting. Seeing this, Ruger smiled at her as if nothing had happened, but immediately turned around. "It seems that we have to make another set of clothes." Ruger was very happy at this time. It turned out that he was still the experienced LSP. The hot figure under the iron armor of the leader of the rogue was still beautiful. But when Ruger looked over, it was completely different from when he saw Tia. Although he thought it was also pleasing to the eye, he didn't have the reaction of accelerated heartbeat and dry mouth before. This completely different feeling was the reason why he smiled at Tia. Blood Crow Sarah is a typical rogue warrior. Tall and well proportioned, with long arms and legs. A long brown-red ponytail was combed behind her, heroic and beautiful. Sarah should be 1.75 meters tall, which makes her a typical supermodel in Ruger's original world. She was wearing typical handmade calfskin boots from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance, with relatively thick heels. In addition, she is the leader of Ruger, so her temperament is really that of a supermodel with a queen-like style. Even though she was wearing Minerva's large spare windproof cloak, it was hard to hide her perfect figure. Not to mention others, even Tia would peek at her from time to time with envy. Of course, she did not forget to block Ruger's sight, acting like a kitten protecting its food. Although Minerva was more satisfied with her own strong muscles, she also knew that Sarah's figure was lethal to ordinary people, and was a little curious about Ruger's reaction. However, among all the people, Ruger himself was the calmest. Even after he helped Sarah measure her size and started to make a set of sports bra and leggings and small leather boots, he did not make any small moves to peek at her, which seemed very professional. His performance naturally made the three women a little confused. But Tia was the happiest. Originally, she was still blocking between Sarah and Ruger, but when she found that Ruger did not do anything else to Sarah, she slowly relaxed and approached Sarah to whisper. Minerva observed carefully for a while and vaguely understood. Although the jealousy did not decrease, the mood gradually calmed down. From time to time, she looked at Tia with some envy. Sarah was chatting with Tia about their own energy, while from time to time she looked at the strange man, her eyes flickering, and she didn't know what she was thinking. Until Ruger shouted done, she stood up from the chair, took the clothes handed over by Ruger, threw away the cloak, and put them on by herself. No one expected her to do this. Tia wanted to cover it, but it was too late. Minerva simply didn't even want to help, and the tailor saw it clearly. However, Ruger on the other side just raised his eyebrows unexpectedly, looked at Sarah thoughtfully, and then turned his head away gracefully and unnoticeably. "Oh, by the way, I made this dress with reference to Tia's," he said casually. "Maybe it's a little loose for you. Just tie the rope tightly yourself." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-Chi-Ji. Chapter 119. Sarah was somewhat upset when a man she just met casually hinted that she was not big enough. Google search reading. But when she turned around and looked at Tia, who was a little shorter than her but had the same temperament and was overwhelmingly superior in key areas, she couldn't help but sigh. There was no way, little Tia could eat a lot, but she was also really good at growing. Wow, Sister Sarah is so beautiful. Soon, seeing Sarah put on her new clothes, Tia, who was very satisfied with Ruger's performance, did not hesitate to praise her. In fact, this kind of fitness shorts would not be ugly on any of the three women. After all, they are all warriors, and they have long trained their bodies to the best state for their own battles in endless battles. And for humans, a species that actually relies on their own combat power to fight their way out in harsh environments, appreciating individuals with more combat power is also a genetic instinct. This actually applies to both men and women. After this period of mutual communication, the four people finally summarized the situation on their respective routes. Minerva and Tia's lines are not to be elaborated, but Sarah's line is even simpler. According to her own words, she fainted when she fell from the ground to the ghostly dungeon. She had no memory during that period, only strange dreams. But interestingly, she also encountered an enemy in her dream that could cause her real damage, but the damage was not very high. However, compared with Tia, who ate the thing casually, Sarah's method was simpler and more brutal. She beat the thing to death and even made it a pet. Through the spiritual connection between the owner and the pet, similar to the pet contract in the fantasy world, she even got some explanations. For example, the dressing method of the purple black iron gammon armor that she wore when she woke up was obtained by her through this connection. At first, the three of them were somewhat unconvinced, but when Sarah blew a whistle and a blade spider jumped out from nowhere and crawled around Sarah, the three finally believed it. How unlucky is E52? Ruger thought. That guy only had 2 radom trees, and it was obvious that he wanted to gain stronger combat power by making Iron Man. As a result, the 2 people who were colonized actually solved the parasites that wanted to control them in their own ways. This is really a complete sugar-coated bullet. Hits, eat all the sugar coating, and hit the bullet back intact. It would be fine if Tia ate the parasitic radom alive, which is in line with her usual foodie personality. Sarah here actually took the radom parasite as a pet? What's going on? Ruger even complained for the ghosts. Are they still human? Oh, by the way, they are all visitors from other worlds, Nephilim, and strictly speaking, they are indeed 2 species from the Lost Ones. In the end, Ruger could only let himself not think too much and accept this reality with peace of mind. Afterwards, in Sarah's words, the part of her radom pet memory related to the ghost core technology was also eliminated. Despite this, with her as a reference, Ruger's speed of analyzing mass energy conversion technology has been significantly improved. However, Ruger didn't care as much about Sarah's additional weapons as he did about Tia. After all, the latter is a teammate and friend that he fully agrees with, and even more, she is completely his own person. As for the former, although she is Tia's recognized sister and is recognized by his own people, Ruger is still a little wary of her. Although this defense is groundless and he can't explain it to Tia and others, he has no intention of withdrawing at all. It's hard for him to explain other things, but for him, taking the initiative to give himself benefits is obviously either treason or theft, and there is definitely something wrong. So after helping Tia to turn grenades, machine guns, mortars, and even fist swords into iron, he didn't add weapons to Sarah's iron on the grounds of insufficient materials. But with the enemy at hand and only a few hours left before the Ghost Army came, he couldn't help but provide weapons to Sarah. So he made a spear and a bow for Sarah according to the standards of Amazon warriors. The spearhead was enchanted with the few remaining magic amethysts, which enhanced both precision and sharpness. More than half of the arrowheads of that set of arrows were made into explosive fragments by him. Although the arrowheads are limited by weight and the amount of charge cannot be too much, Sarah, as a Nephilim, can use a high-pound bow, and naturally the weight of the arrows can also be increased. In short, the killing range of the final explosive arrow is slightly smaller than that of ordinary defensive grenades, and killing ordinary ghost cannon fodder is definitely not a problem. However, Ruger also ignored Sarah's inexplicable eyes and openly built a new battle armor for himself. That's right, it uses the Iron Man technology. It probably uses the power exoskeleton of the fluorescent zombie as the basic skeleton, and builds the armor of Iron Man material on the outside. Although it looks a bit bloated than the normal Iron Man body of Tia and Sarah, the defense is also much stronger. He even added life detection devices that are only found in spacesuits, as well as automatic treatment drug injection devices. Nuclear, biological, and chemical defenses are even more essential. He always carries his Geiger counter with him, and he has discovered that the radiation dose in the entire Gaime base is high, which is definitely harmful to ordinary people. So he will never ignore the 3 defense devices again. The remaining money for the healing potion alone is definitely worth the cost of the device. Seeing him not shy about using the Iron Man materials that he had said were not enough before to make his own armor, Sarah was surprised and asked several times. "Didn't you say that the materials were not enough to make me a weapon? What's going on now?" "That's right," Ruger didn't even turn his head. "It's because you have to make new armor for me and Minerva, so there is no material for you to make a weapon. Also, there is still a share for me." Minerva, who has had little presence since Sarah woke up, said with some surprise. "Of course," Ruger said as if it was a matter of course, "there will be a big battle later, and I don't know how many ghosts will surround us. Weapons are easy to deal with, but this self-defense armor can't be vague at all." As he said that, Ruger glanced back at Sarah, and then said to Minerva, "Don't be idle either, take off the previous armor, and then dismantle the outer armor, leaving only the skeleton. I will hang the weapons directly on the armor for you. Anyway, we can't recover them for the time being, so it's easier." It's not that he doesn't want to make a set of Iron Man armor that can be recovered into the crystal tattoo through mass energy conversion, but that's really just armor. What 3 defense system, life support system, etc., he can't make them with Iron Man materials now, so he can't convert them. After all, the time left for him to analyze is still a little short. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 120. Hearing that Ruger was going to make a body of iron garment armor for her, Minerva naturally got busy excitedly. Seeing this, Tia also hurried over to help. Minerva had only learned how to put on and take off the heavy armor made of armor plates before, but how to remove the armor plates from the skeleton still depended on Tia. Sarah, who was retorted by Ruger with irrefutable words, looked at Ruger's busy back with ups and downs, as if she would explode at any time. However, after a moment, she smiled, turned her head and walked away, as if she no longer cared about this matter. Damn, she's not angry at all. This woman is really problematic, Ruger, who had been monitoring the back through Lao's Hizeo, thought to himself. Humph, this little guy seems to have doubted me. Is this the intuition of a time traveler? They are really more difficult to deal with than one another. Sarah over there was also thinking about it in her heart. Well, for his sake, I won't bother you. I just hope you, little guy, don't block my way. At the same time, Ruger felt a chill in his back, as if he was being stared at by some vicious predator. He turned around quickly and saw Sarah behind him slowly walking away, but she picked up the long-barreled HK-417 precision shooter rifle that had not been used for a long time from the table next to her. She fiddled with the rifle skillfully, removed the cheap holographic sight on the Picatinny rail, and replaced it with the 4X optical scope that Ruger had just exchanged next to it. This scene made Ruger immediately realize that Sarah not only knew how to use a gun, but also had a high level, and might even be a professional precision shooter. Although this did not conflict with the positioning of Ruger and others, Ruger still felt a little inexplicable. Sarah seemed to sense his gaze, turned around and smiled at him. "This gun is nice, is it yours?" "Lu, yeah, but I haven't used it many times." "I can see that." "Lu, if you like it, I'll give you that gun." "Oh," Sarah's mouth curled slightly, "is this a gift from you? Oh my God, this guy dared to flirt with me?" Ruger immediately replied, "It's not a gift, it's just a weapon. Giving a beautiful woman a weapon as a gift shows how unromantic I am." "Humph, do you really think I can't say dirty words?" Ruger thought proudly. However, he didn't expect Sarah to smile immediately. "Remember what you said, you owe me a gift." Damn, Ruger cursed in his heart, thinking that he had found this woman's way. However, watching her hold the rifle handle with one hand and naturally lift the gun body to her shoulder, Ruger only felt an inexplicable familiarity. He seemed to remember something in the dark, and his face became more subtle. After hesitating for a while, he finally asked directly, "Sarah, your full name is?" "Well, didn't I tell you?" "I'm so rude." The woman turned and nodded at him. "My name is Kerrigan, Sarah Kerrigan." What did she say? Ruger was in a trance, but he shouted in his mind. "Her name is Sarah Kerrigan? Damn it! Damn it! The Queen of Blades, Sarah Kerrigan? What's going on? Another mess?" Sarah Kerrigan, not transformed into the Queen of Blades by the Zerg, but transformed into a Iron Man warrior by Radom? What vulgar joke is this from? How is it possible? No, no, calm down, calm down. Ruger took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. Sarah Kerrigan, from another heavyweight work, StarCraft, from the copyright holder of Diablo. The latter tells the story of the human empire entering the interstellar age and competing with the alien races Protoss and Zerg in the starry sky. But the hegemony behind it is the historical legacy of the ancient civilization of the previous generation or even countless generations before that. There are more and more worldviews with similar settings, and there is no need to talk about it. What needs to be emphasized is that this Zerg called Zerg is also a great disaster in the interstellar space. The planets they arrive at are basically equivalent to entering the end of the world. They also have the ability to infect organic creatures and transform them into Zerg. In a series of hegemony plots, Sarah Kerrigan, a ghost agent who is good at using sniper rifles, was captured by the Zerg. After transformation, she eventually became the new leader of the Zerg, the Queen of Blades. In the end, it was also she who solved the historical legacy of the ancient civilization. In short, this is the first heroine of that strategy game. So when he found that the leader of the Dark World, Rogue, was named Sarah Kerrigan, although he was called Blood Raven, Rogue had such a big reaction. It was like he traveled back to the Three Kingdoms era, and ended up meeting a general under Liu Bei who called himself Han Shizhong or Qi Jiguang. Who wouldn't be surprised to see this? But after calming down, Ruger immediately asked himself a question: if this Kerrigan is not that Kerrigan, is there any other reasonable explanation? Yes. There is one. Although that explanation is too universal, it seems to be applicable everywhere. She, Commander Rog, red-haired Blood Raven, Sarah Kerrigan, is also a traveler. No, she doesn't even need to be a traveler, just. This term is so beautiful. Who gave you this name? Your parents, Ruger asked Sarah's back again. Ha, is that so? Is this name beautiful? I don't know. The person who named me only told me that it was the name of a hero. Sarah turned back and smiled at Ruger. The one who named me was Tia's father, Mr. Maximum. Well, it's that senior's fault again. He cursed secretly in his heart, but Ruger was somewhat relieved. After all, Joshua Warden and Minerva were used casually over there, so what if there was one more Kerrigan? Besides, based on Kerrigan's final form, it's not an exaggeration to say that she is the god of her own universe. Isn't it just a time traveler who likes to give younger generations god names? Nothing, nothing. Ruger breathed a sigh of relief and quickly gathered his mind to make his own Iron Man armor. He didn't see that Sarah's mouth curled up, revealing an evil smile. When she found that Tia was curiously looking at her, she immediately put on a normal smile, nodded and moved closer. This series of changes was seen by the old noisy hiding in the ceiling. It looked at its master who was chatting happily with Sarah Minerva, and then looked at Ruger who was trying hard to install the armor over there. It tilted its head and thought for a while, and then went directly into Ruger's mobile phone. Buzz buzz. Ruger picked up the mobile phone that suddenly vibrated and saw a video recorded from the perspective of the old noisy and Sarah's evil smile. Humph, are you using Tia's father as a shield? Ruger couldn't help but snorted in his heart after he figured it out. It seems that you also know that I am a time traveler? Then let's continue this play. I want to see who you are.